Hello, hello, and welcome back to another book review. This week we are talking about book 2 of the Crescent City Series. Whoever made a series name and alliteration is just cruel. I am going to review House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. Again, this is the second book in a series. If you have not read House of Earth and Blood, the first book in the series, please go back. I'm sure you can click down below to my previous review for the first book because this is not a standalone. You cannot read this book first. You do need to read the first book to know what's going on, know the world that we're entering into, and just enjoy it. So, now that I know everyone watching this has read book 1, let's get into book 2, House of Sky and Breath. I thought that this book would pick up where the last book left off, and it kind of did, but it kind of didn't. We're approaching fall, the fall equinox, and the first book ended in the spring. So it's about 6 months later. To summarize the end of the first book, Mika's dead, Sandriel's dead, Bryce and Hunt killed them. The Bright Hand from the Astari threatened them to basically be chill or they'd kill everyone. And Bryce obviously doesn't have a job anymore because the library has moved, and the last scene with the suspicious conversation between Jessica and Idis, who is the Prince of the Chasm, I think the 5th Prince of Hell, we still don't know what's going on there. And this book, it doesn't start off in Bryce's point of view with the happy couple, getting to know them again. It starts off with an unknown's point of view. Someone named Sophie, who we find out is a Thunderbird, which is a very rare type of veneer that has been hunted to extinction. So that's where we drop into book 2. And I want to share some things to note, and then we're going to get into the setting, my personal thoughts, and my ratings. So this book, way less sex, drug, and violence compared to the first book. The first book was borderline gory in parts of it, and this book, I would say, has virtually nowhere near the level of violence. Obviously, they're still fighting, but it's not at all in your face like the other one. It does, unfortunately, end on a cliffhanger, which you might know from watching my other reviews is a pet peeve of mine. I cannot stand a cliffhanger, but this book ends on a cliffhanger with the introduction of a multiverse into another series by Sarah J. Maas. I have not read the other series that this crosses over with, or I've read 2 of them, but I didn't read all 7. So I don't know if this crossover is in those ones as well, but maybe you already know about this crossover. I personally didn't already know about the crossover, but the introduction to the multiverse was dramatic, to say the least. All right, so the setting of this book, we're back, new mystery, new secrets from Danica. How this girl had 10 different lives is beyond me. Every single book, I hope, isn't just full of Danica's secrets coming to light, because it's getting a little bit ridiculous now. But this book, like the first one, is split into 3 parts, broken down by the chasm, the abyss, and the pit, which are 3 different levels of hell, which we may or may not meet their princes in this book. But it's once again a little bit of a mystery playing detective role for Bryce, only this time, instead of hunting a demon and a serial killer, we are looking for a little boy. And honestly, my thoughts on this book, the side characters are the main event of this book. This book isn't only from Bryce's point of view. I think the other one had other points of view, but this one's really divided across all these different points of views. We see Rune, her brother, Therian, the mayor, Ethan, the werewolf, Hunt, of course, the angel. We see so many people's points of views. It's a little bit disorienting, and sometimes they almost switch mid-scene, which I wasn't a big fan of. But I do at the same time like other people's points of views to get another opinion on what's going on in the scene. But I would say that Rune, Bryce's brother, the chosen one, the Starborn Prince, he has definitely become a fan favorite. I called it in my first review of the first book that I really was looking forward to him coming back, because he's just got something about him in his character. But I feel like in this series, in this book, Bryce was no longer it. Bryce was no longer the one that I was like, what is she doing? What is she up to? It was like she almost wasn't the most important. Not that that's a bad thing, but it was interesting to see like the trajectory of the book shift after everything that we saw with her coming out as a starborn princess and having way more power and just everything that we saw in the first book. It was interesting to see that switch. Sadly, for everybody looking for the romance between Bryce and Hunt, I just feel like it wasn't there in this book. They honestly never had time alone. Like I mentioned before, Rune, Therian, Ethan, and then of course Rune's friends, Declan and Flynn. Like there was always all these people there, and a lot of people have pointed out it was always males. Bryce a lot of the times was the only woman in the room. Every once in a while we saw Fury and June, but realistically, like it was Bryce and a bunch of guys. And they were just never alone. Of course, everyone has fae hearing or werewolf hearing, so there's no getting it on in the back because everybody can hear what you're doing and what you're saying. And I just found that like a little bit disappointing that there was really like maybe 2 scenes for the 2 of them to like have a little spicy moment, and then it was done and it was back to hunting for someone or trying to plot a new scheme. And yeah, so the romance fell flat. But I guess, I mean, after 2 books, this isn't a romance novel. I shouldn't be surprised, but I just wanted to include that in my review because it did take me by surprise. I thought at the end of the first one that we were going to see more romance in this book. Another thing that I wasn't a big fan, there were so many side plots introduced in this book. First, we're looking for 2 people, then we're looking for 1 person, then it's like, never mind, the person's been taken care of, totally discreetly off the scenes, like didn't actually happen in the book. There's a new wolf and it can change everything within the pack and the den and Sabine's control. And is the pack of devils safe? Because we went to the bone quarter and actually everything we know is a lie. And it's just like everything had like flip side backstories to it. Like all the couples that are now presented, there's actually somebody else involved in the couple and it's not what you think from front facing. And I'm just kind of sitting here like, are we gonna get clarity in book 3? Are all of these side plots going to implode and come to light? Or are they just going to keep getting like mentioned and brushed on the rug? Because that's like, I want to know. I want things cleared up. Things aren't clear right now. I feel like in terms of plot twists compared to the first one, there was significantly less. Yeah, because the first one at the end of the book, I think they were really well done. They were things that I didn't see coming and they were believable based on the story. In this one, some of them were kind of predictable. You saw them coming, like an archangel betraying them. Wow, how surprising after how the first one ended. But then there is like this like really random one, like a mind link love story. The side plots were all over the place, and I think the main plot twist at the end wasn't as big a deal as people are making it out to be. Like the big scary secret that they go to all this trouble to figure out and uncover wasn't that shocking to me, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But I'm really curious how everybody else feels about this, because maybe it's just me who didn't think it was a big deal. So if after you've read this, because I'm giving it a stunning review, I know, but after you've read book 2, please come back and comment and let me know, what did you think of the plot twist at the end? Was it a big deal to you? Are you freaking out? Or was it kind of fell flat? Because I feel like it fell a little bit flat. So I would rate this book a 3. If I'm being generous, I'd give it a 3.5. The attention to detail just wasn't there for me like in the first book. In the first book, the storyline, the plot line was so good, so clear. Everything flowed consistently. In this second book, there was things that like happened, like Hunt's dream. And Hunt's like, I don't know how I'm going to tell anyone about this. I don't know if I should tell anyone about this. Is this real? Because it was a dream. And then all of a sudden we're like talking like everybody knows, but he never actually revealed it. And it's just, there was things like that just kind of fell through the cracks for me, that they weren't as ironed out as I would have liked considering how well thought out the first book was. And again, with Danica having 100 more secrets, it's how can she have had these hundreds of other lives while living with Bryce and being with her 24/7? And like, she had no idea about anything. Like, it's just really weird. The first book was really about friendship, and I don't feel like this one had that underlying friendship, moral friendship theme. I feel like it was almost more people coming into their own characters, which was interesting because like they're all individually coming into their own characters, and it didn't blend for me in a way that I would have liked. So that's what I wanted to say. Yes, I will be reading book 3. I am apprehensive about reading it, also because I know that there is a 4th book. Sarah has released that there will be a 4th book, but it doesn't have an expected release date yet, and they're saying it will not be in 2024. So I'm really hoping it doesn't end on a cliffhanger, because I don't like the idea of waiting over a year for the conclusion. But I will be reading it because I am a glutton for punishment. And that's all I have to say. I want to hear your thoughts. Jump in the comments and let me know your thoughts about Crescent City Series. If you've read book 1 and you're thinking about reading book 2, if you have already read book 2 and you're going on to book 3, or if you've read all 3 and were just watching this because you were curious what I had to say. I am open to chatting. The comments are open, and I look forward to hearing.